It was a calm and peaceful morning when Keanu Reeves opened his laptop to check his emails. The room was quiet, with only the soft hum of the air conditioner breaking the silence. As he scrolled through the usual mix of work-related messages and fan mail, one particular email caught his eye. It was from a popular talk show host, someone whose program he had watched many times before. At first glance, it seemed like just another professional request, an invitation to appear on live television. But something about the tone of the message made him pause. The email began with the usual formalities, thanking Keanu for his contributions to cinema and expressing admiration for his career. But as Keanu read further, his brow furrowed slightly. This wasn't going to be an ordinary appearance where he would promote his latest movie or answer questions about his action-packed roles. Instead, the host revealed that this episode was going to be different, a special feature with someone unexpected, someone who played a significant role in shaping Keanu's early life. When Keanu saw the name mentioned in the email, his heart skipped a beat. Mr. Alan Hargrove. The words brought back a flood of memories of long hours spent rehearsing lines, late-night conversations about dreams and fears, and lessons that went far beyond acting. Mr. Hargrove had been Keanu's drama teacher during his high school years, a man whose wisdom and guidance left an indelible mark on him. Back then, Keanu was still trying to figure out who he was and what he wanted to become, and while he didn't realize it at the time, Mr. Hargrove became more than just a teacher. He became a mentor, a source of encouragement, and even a friend. Keanu leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen. He hadn't seen or spoken to Mr. Hargrove in decades. Life had taken them down very different paths. After graduating, Keanu moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting, eventually becoming one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. Meanwhile, Mr. Hargrove continued teaching, dedicating his life to nurturing young talent and helping students discover their potential. Though they had lost touch over the years, Keanu often thought about his former teacher. There were moments, on film sets or during interviews, when Keanu found himself reflecting on the lessons Mr. Hargrove had taught him, not just about performing, but about understanding people and connecting with emotions. The idea of seeing Mr. Hargrove again filled Keanu with a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. What would he say? How much had changed since those days in the classroom? Would Mr. Hargrove still recognize the quiet, reserved teenager he once knew? These questions swirled in Keanu's mind as he clicked reply and typed out his acceptance. Yes, he would join the show. Deep down, he felt this meeting could be meaningful, not just for him but perhaps for others too. Days passed quickly, and soon it was time for the live broadcast. Keanu arrived at the studio earlier than usual, wanting a few moments alone to gather his thoughts. The bustling energy of the crew setting up lights and microphones contrasted sharply with the calm he tried to maintain inside. As he waited backstage, he couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation building within him. This wasn't just another interview. It was a reunion with someone who had profoundly impacted his journey. Finally, the moment came. The stage manager signaled for Keanu to take his place. With a deep breath, he stepped out onto the brightly lit set. Cameras flashed, capturing every step, and the audience erupted into applause. Their cheers echoed around the room, but Keanu's attention was focused elsewhere. Across the stage sat Mr. Hargrove, looking older yet unmistakably familiar. His silver hair glimmered under the studio lights, and his warm smile radiated kindness. For a brief second, time seemed to stand still. All the years that had passed melted away, leaving only the bond they once shared. As Keanu approached, Mr. Hargrove stood up slowly, extending his hand. When their hands met, there was no need for words. A simple handshake conveyed everything: the gratitude, the respect, and the unspoken connection between them. The host greeted both men warmly, introducing Mr. Hargrove to the audience. "This is someone who has played a pivotal role in Keanu's life," the host said, gesturing toward the retired teacher. "A man whose influence extends far beyond the classroom." Mr. Hargrove chuckled modestly, shaking his head. "I never imagined I'd end up here," he admitted, his voice steady, but tinged with emotion. But I always believed in Keanu. From the very beginning, I saw something special in him. Hearing these words, Keanu felt a lump rise in his throat. He smiled, nodding slightly as memories of his younger self flooded back. Those early days of uncertainty, of searching for direction, they all felt so distant now, yet somehow vivid and real. The audience watched intently, captivated by the unfolding scene. They could sense the depth of emotion between the two men, a bond forged not through fame or fortune, but through trust, patience, and shared experiences. Little did they know this was only the beginning of a conversation that would touch hearts and remind everyone of the power of mentorship. The stage lights shimmered brightly as the audience settled into their seats, eager to witness the unique connection between Keanu Reeves and his former teacher. The host, sensing the palpable energy in the room, began with light-hearted questions to ease the tension. "So, Mr. Hargrove," the host said with a smile, turning toward the retired teacher, "what was Keanu like back in high school? Was he always this cool and confident?" Mr. Hargrove chuckled softly, adjusting his glasses before answering. "Cool? Maybe not in the way you're thinking," he replied, glancing at Keanu with a twinkle in his eye. Keanu was quiet, very reserved. He wasn't the kind of student who raised his hand often or tried to grab attention, but when it came to drama class, he had a spark. You could see it in the way he approached each role, no matter how small. He didn't just act, he felt. Keanu shifted slightly in his chair, listening intently as his former teacher painted a picture of his younger self. It was strange hearing these observations aloud, especially from someone who knew him so well during those formative years. Back then, Keanu hadn't thought much about what others saw in him. He was simply trying to find his place in the world, navigating the challenges of adolescence while dreaming of something bigger. The host leaned forward, clearly intrigued. "What do you mean by he felt?" she asked, her curiosity mirroring that of the audience. "Well," Mr. Hargrove explained, pausing briefly to collect his thoughts, "acting isn't just about memorizing lines or hitting your mark on stage. It's about understanding emotions, the ones your character feels and the ones you bring to the table." Keanu had a natural ability to connect with the material. He didn't just recite words, he lived them. Even in rehearsals, I could tell he was searching for truth in every scene. As Mr. Hargrove spoke, Keanu found himself transported back to those days. He remembered standing on the school auditorium stage, practicing monologues late into the evening. Sometimes he would lose track of time, completely absorbed in the stories he was telling. It wasn't just about performing, it was about discovering pieces of himself through the characters he portrayed. And through it all, Mr. Hargrove had been there, guiding him, encouraging him, and pushing him to dig deeper. The conversation shifted to specific memories, and Mr. Hargrove shared a story that made the audience laugh warmly. There was one play where Keanu played a clumsy detective, he recalled, his voice filled with fondness. He kept tripping over props during rehearsals, but instead of getting frustrated, he turned it into part of the act. By opening night, the audience was roaring with laughter, not because it was scripted, but because he embraced the chaos and made it work. Keanu grinned, recalling the moment vividly. "I think I fell off the stage once," he added, scratching the back of his neck sheepishly. "But yeah, sometimes mistakes can lead to magic if you let them." This light-hearted exchange brought laughter to the room, but beneath the humor lay a deeper message. Creativity thrives when people are willing to take risks and embrace imperfection. Mr. Hargrove nodded approvingly, emphasizing this point. "That's exactly right," he said. "Life is messy, and art reflects that." Keanu understood early on that authenticity matters more than perfection. The discussion then moved to the broader impact of drama class on students' lives. Mr. Hargrove became more animated as he talked about the lessons he hoped to impart beyond acting techniques. "Drama teaches empathy," he explained passionately. "When you step into someone else's shoes, whether it's a fictional character or a real person, you learn to see the world from their perspective. That's a skill everyone needs, not just actors. Keanu listened closely, nodding in agreement. These lessons had stayed with him long after he left high school. In fact, they shaped the way he approached both his career and his personal life. Whether portraying complex characters on screen or interacting with fans and colleagues, Keanu carried that sense of empathy with him everywhere he went. It was one of the reasons people admired him, not just for his talent but for his genuine kindness and humility. The host picked up on this thread, asking Keanu how Mr. Hargrove's teachings influenced his journey in Hollywood. For a moment, Keanu hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "It's hard to put into words," he finally said, his voice soft but sincere. "But everything I do, every role I take, every decision I make, it comes back to what I learned in that classroom. Acting isn't just a job for me. It's a way of connecting with people, of telling stories that might help someone feel less alone." His response resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom nodded in understanding. They had seen glimpses of this philosophy in Keanu's interviews and public appearances over the years. What they didn't know was how much of it stemmed from the foundation laid by his teacher. Mr. Hargrove smiled warmly, visibly moved by Keanu's words. "You've done exactly what I hoped my students would do," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "You've taken those lessons and used them to make a difference, not just in your own life, but in the lives of others." The sincerity in his tone struck a chord with everyone present. The audience erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the studio. Keanu looked down for a moment, overcome by emotion. He had spent years reflecting on his path, crediting his success to hard work and perseverance. But sitting here now, face to face with the man who believed in him when he doubted himself, he realized how much gratitude he still carried within him. As the segment continued, the atmosphere grew even more heartfelt. The host encouraged Mr. Hargrove to share another memory, and he obliged, recounting a time when Keanu stayed behind after class to ask for advice. He wanted to know if he should pursue acting seriously, Mr. Hargrove recalled. "I told him that if it's truly what he loves, he shouldn't let anything stand in his way. Passion like that doesn't come along often." Keanu smiled wistfully, remembering the uncertainty he felt back then. At the time, he wasn't sure if he was good enough or brave enough to chase such a competitive dream. But Mr. Hargrove's encouragement gave him the confidence to take the leap. Now, decades later, he sat on national television, proof that dreams really can come true, with the right support and guidance. By the end of this part of the conversation, the bond between Keanu and Mr. Hargrove was undeniable. Their shared history, filled with laughter, learning, and mutual respect, had captivated everyone watching. As the host wrapped up this segment, she thanked both guests for sharing such a meaningful glimpse into their past. But unbeknownst to the audience, the most emotional moments were yet to come. As the interview progressed, the conversation took a deeper turn. The host gently steered the discussion away from lighthearted memories and toward the challenges both Keanu Reeves and Mr. Hargrove had faced in their respective journeys. It was a shift that brought a sense of gravity to the room, as if everyone present could feel the weight of what was about to be shared. "Mr. Hargrove," the host began, her tone softer now. "You've been a teacher for many years. What were some of the biggest challenges you encountered in your career?" The retired teacher leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. He took a moment before answering, as though carefully choosing his words. "Teaching isn't easy," he admitted, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "There are days when it feels like you're fighting an uphill battle. Budget cuts, skeptical parents, students who don't believe in themselves. But the hardest part is knowing that not every student will succeed, no matter how much you try to help them." Keanu watched intently, his gaze fixed on his former teacher. He had never heard Mr. Hargrove speak so openly about his struggles before. In high school, Keanu had seen him only as a source of strength and encouragement, a man who always seemed unshakable. Now, sitting across from him decades later, he realized just how much effort and resilience it must have taken for Mr. Hargrove to maintain that calm exterior. "But even on the toughest days," Mr. Hargrove continued, "there's always hope. You plant seeds and sometimes they grow in ways you never expect." He turned to Keanu, his eyes warm with pride. You were one of those seeds, Keanu. Watching you succeed has reminded me why I chose this path in the first place. Keanu blinked rapidly, visibly moved by the comment. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, unsure of how to respond. For someone known for his humility, hearing such heartfelt praise wasn't easy. But he also knew better than to brush it off. Instead, he nodded slowly, mouthing a silent thank you before finding his voice. I didn't realize it at the time, Keanu said, his words measured and sincere. But you gave me more than just acting lessons. You taught me how to face challenges, how to keep going even when things get hard. His voice cracked slightly, betraying the emotions bubbling beneath the surface. I think about that a lot, especially during tough times in my life. The audience listened quietly, hanging on to every word. Many of them already knew about Keanu's personal struggles, the tragic loss of loved ones, the heartbreaks, and the moments of self-doubt. But hearing him speak so candidly about how his teacher helped shape his resilience added a new layer of understanding to his story. It wasn't just talent or luck that made Keanu who he is today. It was the lessons instilled in him by people like Mr. Hargrove. The host picked up on this thread, turning to Keanu with a gentle question. How do you think those lessons have influenced your approach to life and work? Keanu hesitated for a moment, collecting his thoughts. When he finally spoke, his words carried a depth that resonated with everyone in the room. Acting is about telling stories, he said simply. But it's also about connecting with people, understanding their pain, their joy, their fears. That's something Mr. Hargrove drilled into us. He used to say, every character you play is a human being with a story worth telling. And I think that mindset applies to real life too. When you meet someone, you don't know what they're carrying inside. If you can listen, really listen, and try to understand where they're coming from, you can make a difference, even if it's just in a small way. His response drew murmurs of agreement from the audience. They had seen glimpses of this philosophy in Keanu's public persona, the way he treated fans with kindness, the way he remained grounded despite his fame. Now, they understood that these qualities weren't accidental. They were cultivated over years of learning and growth, starting in a humble high school drama class. Mr. Hargrove nodded approvingly, clearly proud of the man Keanu had become. That's exactly what I hoped my students would take away, he said, his voice filled with emotion. It's not just about succeeding in your career. It's about using what you've learned to lift others up, to be a force for good in the world. At this point, the conversation began to circle back to the theme of gratitude. The host asked Keanu directly, if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you say to him? And what would you say to Mr. Hargrove? Keanu paused, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. He glanced at Mr. Hargrove, then looked down at his hands, which were clasped tightly together. To my younger self, he started, his voice barely above a whisper, I'd say keep going. You're stronger than you think. And to Mr. Hargrove, he trailed off, taking a deep breath to compose himself. I'd say, thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Even the cameras seemed to pause, capturing the raw emotion etched on Keanu's face. Mr. Hargrove wiped a tear from his own cheek, overwhelmed by the sincerity of the moment. The two men exchanged a long look, communicating volumes without saying a word. The host, sensing the profound impact of the exchange, decided to give them space to reflect. She smiled warmly and said, It's clear that the bond between a teacher and student can last a lifetime. Thank you both for sharing your stories with us today. The audience erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the studio. But for Keanu and Mr. Hargrove, the noise faded into the background. They were caught in a moment of pure connection, one that transcended time, fame, and circumstance. It was a reminder that the most meaningful relationships are often built on trust, patience, and unwavering support. As the segment drew to a close, the host announced a short break before the final portion of the show. Cameras stopped rolling and the stage crew moved around quietly, preparing for the next segment. But neither Keanu nor Mr. Hargrove paid much attention to the activity around them. They sat side by side, still processing everything that had been said. For Keanu, it was a chance to reflect on how far he'd come and how much he owed to the people who helped him along the way. For Mr. Hargrove, it was a moment of quiet satisfaction, knowing that his efforts as a teacher had truly made a difference. Together, they embodied the power of mentorship, a bond that endures long after the classroom doors close. Little did they know the emotional peak of their reunion was yet to come. When the cameras rolled again after the break, the atmosphere in the studio felt heavier, charged with emotion. The audience, still buzzing from the heartfelt exchange earlier, leaned forward in anticipation. They could sense that something profound was about to unfold. Keanu Reeves and Mr. Hargrove sat closer now, their body language reflecting a deep connection that had only grown stronger during the pause. The host resumed the conversation by asking Mr. Hargrove to share more about his teaching philosophy. "You've mentioned before that teaching is about planting seeds," she said gently. "Can you tell us more about what that means to you?" Mr. Hargrove nodded thoughtfully, adjusting his glasses as he prepared to speak. "Every student comes into your classroom carrying dreams, doubts, and fears," he began, his voice calm, but filled with conviction. "As a teacher, my job isn't just to teach them facts or skills, it's to help them see their own potential, to show them that they're capable of more than they think. Sometimes all it takes is believing in them when no one else does." He paused, glancing at Keanu with a fond smile. "I remember one particular day when Keanu stayed behind after class. He looked unsure, almost hesitant. He asked me if he was good enough to pursue acting seriously. I told him then, and I'll say it again now, you don't have to be perfect to be great. What matters is passion. If you love something deeply, you'll find a way to make it work." Keanu listened, intently, his eyes fixed on his former teacher. Those words, spoken so many years ago, had stayed with him through every challenge he faced. When auditions didn't go well, when critics doubted his abilities, or when personal tragedies threatened to pull him under, those simple, yet powerful, words kept him grounded. Passion over perfection. This mantra became the foundation of his career and his life. The host turned to Keanu, sensing an opportunity to delve deeper into how these lessons shaped him. "What did you take away from moments like that?" she asked softly. Keanu hesitated, taking a slow breath before responding. "It's hard to explain," he admitted, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "When you're young, especially in high school, you're trying to figure out who you are. You question everything, your talents, your worth, your place in the world. Hearing someone like Mr. Hargrove tell you that you're enough, it changes you." He paused, looking down at his hands for a moment before continuing. "For me, it wasn't just about acting. It was about believing in myself, not just as an actor but as a person. That belief gave me the courage to keep going, even when things got tough. And trust me, there were plenty of tough times." His honesty struck a chord with the audience. Many of them already knew about Keanu's struggles: the loss of his best friend River Phoenix, the death of his daughter Ava shortly after her birth, and the passing of his ex-partner Jennifer Syme in a car accident. These tragedies could have broken anyone, yet Keanu persevered. Now hearing him attribute part of his resilience to the guidance of his teacher painted a fuller picture of the man sitting before them. Mr. Hargrove listened quietly, visibly moved by Keanu's reflection. "You know," he interjected, his voice trembling slightly, "as teachers we don't always realize the impact we have. We hope we're making a difference, but most of the time we never know for sure. Seeing where you are today, knowing the kind of person you've become, it's proof that those little moments matter." Keanu smiled faintly, his eyes glistening. "They do," he agreed. "And it's not just about success. It's about how you treat people along the way. That's another thing you taught me, Mr. Hargrove. You used to say, acting is about understanding humanity. But really, you were teaching us how to live, with empathy, kindness, and humility. This sentiment resonated deeply with everyone in the room. The audience erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the studio. For many, this exchange was a reminder of the importance of gratitude, not just toward mentors, but toward anyone who has ever offered support or encouragement. It was also a testament to the lasting influence of teachers, whose words and actions can ripple outward for decades. The host, sensing the emotional weight of the moment, decided to shift gears slightly. She asked Mr. Hargrove if he had any advice for current educators who might be struggling to inspire their students. His response was immediate and heartfelt. "Never underestimate the power of patience," he said firmly. "Every student learns at their own pace, and sometimes it takes years for them to fully understand the lessons you're trying to teach. Don't give up on them. Even if you don't see results right away, trust that what you're doing matters. Plant the seed, water it, and let life take care of the rest." Keanu nodded in agreement, adding his own perspective. "Sometimes, it's the smallest gestures that leave the biggest impact," he said. "A kind word, a listening ear, a moment of encouragement. They may seem insignificant at the time, but they can change someone's life forever." By this point, both men were visibly emotional. Tears welled up in Keanu's eyes as he spoke, while Mr. Hargrove dabbed at his cheeks with a handkerchief. The audience, too, was visibly moved, many wiping away tears of their own. This wasn't just a reunion. It was a celebration of mentorship, resilience, and the enduring bonds between teachers and students. The host, recognizing the significance of the moment, allowed the conversation to linger for a while longer. She gave both guests space to reflect, knowing that words alone couldn't capture the depth of their connection. As the segment drew to a close, she thanked them once again for sharing their stories, emphasizing how inspiring their journey had been for everyone watching. But the emotional peak of the evening was still ahead. Unbeknownst to Keanu, Mr. Hargrove had one final surprise planned, a gesture that would bring the Hollywood star to tears and leave a lasting impression on everyone present. As the interview neared its conclusion, the host decided to bring out one last surprise for Keanu Reeves, a gesture that would leave both him and the audience deeply moved. Mr. Hargrove had been quietly holding on to something throughout the show, keeping it tucked away in his pocket until the perfect moment. Now, sensing that the time was right, he slowly reached in and pulled out an old photograph. "This is something I've kept with me for years," Mr. Hargrove said, his voice soft but filled with emotion as he held up the faded picture for everyone to see. The camera zoomed in, capturing the image clearly on the studio screens. It showed a young Keanu standing backstage after a high school play, clutching a bouquet of flowers someone had handed him. His face was lit up with a wide grin, radiating pure joy and pride. Behind him stood other students, cheering and clapping, their faces glowing with excitement. Keanu's eyes widened as he saw the photograph. He leaned forward slightly, staring at it in disbelief. Memories came flooding back, the nervousness before stepping onto the stage, the rush of adrenaline during the performance, and the overwhelming sense of accomplishment afterward. That night had been special, not because of the play itself, but because of what it represented. A turning point in his life when he realized acting wasn't just a hobby. It could be his future. "I remember this day," Keanu said softly, his voice trembling. "It was one of the first times I felt like I belonged somewhere, like I was doing exactly what I was meant to do." Mr. Hargrove nodded, his eyes misty, as he gazed at the photo. "This picture reminds me of why I became a teacher," he confessed. "Watching you grow, from a shy teenager unsure of himself to someone who inspires millions. It's been one of the greatest privileges of my life. You reminded me every day why teaching matters." The audience erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the studio. Many people wiped away tears, touched by the raw emotion shared between the two men. For Keanu, this moment was more than nostalgia. It was validation. All those years ago, standing backstage with that bouquet, he couldn't have imagined where his journey would take him. But looking at the photograph now, surrounded by love and support from his former teacher, he understood how far he'd come. and how much he owed to those early days. The host, sensing the depth of the moment, gave them space to process everything. She turned to Mr. Hargrove and asked gently, "What made you decide to keep this photograph all these years?" He smiled faintly, tracing the edges of the photo with his fingers. "Because it captures something important," he replied. "Not just your talent, Keanu, but your heart. Even then, you were someone who cared deeply about others. You weren't just focused on yourself, you wanted everyone around you to succeed, too. That's rare, especially in someone so young." Keanu looked down, overwhelmed by the compliment. Humility had always been one of his defining traits, and hearing such praise from someone he respected so deeply left him speechless. After a long pause, he finally found his voice. "I didn't realize it at the time," he admitted. "But you taught me so much more than acting. You taught me how to be kind, how to listen, and how to believe in myself even when things got hard. Those lessons stayed with me long after I left high school." The sincerity in his words struck a chord with everyone present. The audience murmured in agreement, nodding along as they reflected on their own lives and the mentors who had shaped them. For many, this conversation served as a reminder of the profound influence teachers can have, not just on careers, but on character. Mr. Hargrove, visibly moved, placed a hand over his heart. "You've done more than make me proud," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "You've shown the world what it means to use your gifts for good. Your success isn't just measured by awards or box office numbers. It's measured by the lives you've touched. And that's something no one can ever take away from you." At this point, Keanu couldn't hold back any longer. Tears streamed down his face as he reached across the table to embrace his former teacher. The hug lasted several seconds, filled with unspoken gratitude and mutual respect. Cameras captured the moment perfectly, freezing it in time for viewers everywhere to witness. It was a scene that transcended fame and fortune, reminding everyone of the power of human connection. The host, wiping away her own tears, took a moment to compose herself before speaking again. "This has been such a beautiful reunion," she said, addressing both guests. "Before we wrap up, I want to ask each of you, what message do you hope viewers will take away from today's conversation?" Mr. Hargrove answered first, his tone thoughtful yet firm. "To teachers everywhere, I know it's not easy. There are days when it feels like you're fighting an uphill battle. But trust me, the work you're doing matters. You may not see the results right away, but the seeds you plant will grow in ways you can't imagine. And to students, never forget the value of a mentor who believes in you. Hold on to that belief, nurture it, and let it guide you." Keanu nodded in agreement, taking a deep breath before sharing his thoughts. "Gratitude changes everything," he said simply, his voice steady despite the tears still streaming down his face. "If I could go back in time, I'd thank Mr. Hargrove sooner for everything he did for me. So if there's someone in your life who has helped shape who you are today, whether it's a teacher, a parent, or a friend, don't wait. Tell them how much they mean to you. Because moments like this, they remind us what truly matters." His words resonated deeply with the audience, prompting another round of heartfelt applause. People clapped not just for Keanu and Mr. Hargrove, but for the universal truth they represented, that kindness, gratitude, and mentorship have the power to transform lives. As the show drew to a close, the host thanked both guests once again, emphasizing how inspiring their story had been. Cameras panned across the room, capturing the emotional expressions of everyone present. It was clear that this episode would stay with viewers long after it aired, a testament to the enduring bond between a teacher and his student, and the lessons that transcend time and fame. Behind the scenes, crew members wiped away tears as they packed up equipment. Social media buzzed with reactions, fans sharing their favorite moments and expressing admiration for both Keanu and Mr. Hargrove. But for the two men at the center of it all, the impact went beyond the spotlight. This reunion wasn't just about reliving memories. It was about honoring the past while embracing the future with humility, gratitude, and love. As the final segment of the show approached, the atmosphere in the studio was electric yet tender. The audience, still visibly moved by the emotional exchange between Keanu Reeves and Mr. Hargrove, remained completely silent, hanging on to every word. It was as if everyone present understood that they were witnessing something rare, a moment of pure sincerity and gratitude that transcended fame and circumstance. The host, sensing the weight of the occasion, decided to give both guests one last opportunity to share their thoughts. Turning to Keanu first, she asked gently, "Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?" Keanu took a deep breath, his hands clasped tightly together. He glanced at Mr. Hargrove, who sat beside him with a warm smile, before looking out at the audience. His voice was soft but steady as he began to speak. "I've thought about this reunion for days," he admitted, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But I don't think I fully understood how much it would mean to me until now. Seeing Mr. Hargrove again has reminded me of where I started and how far I've come. But more than that, it's reminded me of the people who helped me get here." He paused, collecting himself before continuing. "Life is full of challenges, and sometimes it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. But moments like this, they ground you. They remind you to be grateful for the lessons you've learned, for the people who believed in you, and for the opportunities you've had to make a difference. If I can leave viewers with one thing today, it's this: never underestimate the power of kindness. A single act of encouragement can change someone's life forever." His words hung in the air, resonating deeply with everyone in the room. The audience erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the studio. Many wiped away tears, nodding in agreement as they reflected on the mentors and supporters in their own lives. For many, Keanu's message served as a call to action, a reminder to express gratitude and appreciation to those who have shaped them. When the applause died down, the host turned to Mr. Hargrove, inviting him to share his final thoughts. The retired teacher adjusted his glasses, his expression thoughtful yet radiant. "Teaching has been my life's work," he began, his voice filled with emotion. "And while I've faced challenges along the way, moments like this make it all worthwhile. Watching Keanu grow into the person he is today, it's proof that the seeds we plant as teachers can blossom in ways we never imagined." He paused, glancing at Keanu with immense pride. "To anyone watching, whether you're a teacher, a student, or simply someone trying to navigate life, remember this: we all have the power to inspire others. It doesn't take grand gestures or heroic acts. Sometimes all it takes is believing in someone when they need it most. That belief can light a fire within them, a fire that keeps burning long after we're gone." The simplicity and depth of his message struck a chord with everyone present. The audience broke into another round of applause, their cheers heartfelt and genuine. Cameras panned across the room, capturing the emotional expressions of fans and crew members alike. Social media lit up with reactions as viewers shared their favorite quotes and moments from the episode. It was clear that this conversation had touched hearts far beyond the studio walls. Before closing the show, the host thanked both guests, once again her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "This has been an unforgettable experience," she said, addressing the audience. "We've laughed, we've cried, and most importantly, we've been reminded of the profound impact teachers can have on our lives. Thank you, Keanu and Mr. Hargrove, for sharing your story with us today." With that, the cameras stopped rolling, signaling the end of the live broadcast. But for Keanu and Mr. Hargrove, the connection they had rekindled went far beyond the confines of the television studio. As the audience filed out and the crew began dismantling equipment, the two men remained seated, reluctant to part ways just yet. "You know," Keanu said softly, breaking the silence, "I wish I could go back in time and tell my younger self not to worry so much, not to doubt himself." He smiled faintly, his gaze fixed on the photograph Mr. Hargrove still held in his hands. "But maybe it's better this way. Maybe the struggles made me appreciate the journey even more." Mr. Hargrove nodded, his eyes shining with pride. "You've always been stronger than you realized," he replied. "Even when you doubted yourself, I saw the determination in your eyes. I knew you'd find your way." Their conversation continued quietly, punctuated by laughter and shared memories. For a brief moment, it felt as though no time had passed at all. They were no longer a world-famous actor and a retired teacher. They were simply two people bound by a shared history and mutual respect. Eventually, the stage manager approached to let them know the studio needed to be cleared. Reluctantly, Keanu and Mr. Hargrove stood up, embracing one final time before parting ways. As Keanu walked toward the exit, he turned back briefly, waving at his former teacher with a smile that conveyed everything words couldn't express. Outside the studio, fans gathered, hoping to catch a glimpse of Keanu. But instead of rushing to leave, he took a few moments to sign autographs and pose for photos. Each interaction was marked by the same kindness and humility that had defined him throughout the interview. For many fans, meeting him felt like encountering not just a celebrity, but a human being who genuinely cared. Meanwhile, inside the studio, Mr. Hargrove packed up his belongings, including the cherished photograph. As he stepped outside, he was greeted by applause from the remaining crew members, who thanked him for being part of such a meaningful episode. Though he waved off the praise modestly, it was evident that the evening had left a lasting impression on him as well. That night, social media buzzed with reactions to the show. Viewers praised Keanu for his authenticity and Mr. Hargrove for his wisdom, with countless posts highlighting the importance of mentorship and gratitude. Teachers around the world shared stories of their own students, inspired by the reminder that their efforts, though often unseen, could shape lives in profound ways. For Keanu, the reunion served as a turning point, a chance to reflect on his journey and honor the people who had guided him along the way. And for Mr. Hargrove, it was validation that his decades of dedication had made a lasting impact. Together, they proved that true inspiration transcends time and fame, rooted instead in the simple yet powerful act of believing in one another. As the lights dimmed in the empty studio, the echoes of their heartfelt conversation lingered, a testament to the enduring bond between a teacher and his student, and a reminder that the lessons we learn stay with us forever.